Hello, everyone. It's Jenna Ryan with Self Love You. Today, I'm going to give you a talk on the Fawn response in narcissist abuse recovery, in learning about the Fawn response and what occurs when you become someone who is prey to a narcissist. Now, I want you to know a lot of people online are talking, the conversation is about red flags, educating yourself on the narcissist, knowing what a narcissist is, knowing what they do, but all the education in the world will not help you if you are not healed from the inside. If you're not healed from within, then you're going to be prey. You're going to be narcissistic supply. You're going to fall victim. You're going to be a target of a narcissist. Because if you're with one, if you had narcissist abuse, if you were raised in a narcissist environment, then you are already groomed and set up to receive the less than treatment that the narcissist doles out. And they play superior and you play less than. Both of you play your roles perfectly. And that's the only way that it will work with a narcissist. So you can know all the red flags all day long and you can talk about those forever. And you can create videos looking at all of the ways that the narcissist abuses. And that's great. It's great to know those things. Because sometimes you can work backwards from that and figure out what it is within you that is like a puzzle piece to accept the narcissist behavior. Some people are not subject to falling for a narcissist. Some people are healthy and not codependent, and they are healed and they haven't gone through childhood trauma and they haven't been, suppressed, and they are able to see the narcissist in the love bombing stage. They're able to immediately suss it out and vet people and set boundaries and walk away because they don't need anything that the narcissist pretends to have to offer. But there's other of us, myself included. I have healed from this. This is something I've really learned, and it's going to be an amazing talk. So get ready, okay? Because I'm just going to pour it out, all right? There's a lot. So I'm going to talk about the Fawn response that occurs whenever you're taken by a narcissist through the love bombing phase. So you may know red flags, and Joe Blow or Susie Q may come to you and offering gifts and offering things, and you're like, this is love bombing. I know it. And you can walk easily away, shut the door. You may have shut the door on somebody that wasn't love bombing, but at least you have protected yourself just in case. Generally speaking, go with your gut, go with your intuition. But there can also be another type of narcissist that comes with something that you need, something that you want, something that you think will fulfill you, something that you think will bring you higher, something that you're lacking within yourself. And those red flags will just go right over your head. And you'll just be like that TikTok where they go, ew, baby, well, you know what that's worth? It's like your delusion. You get delusional. You jump into the shared fantasy. You jump into the fantasy bond. You jump into something that takes you over, and you play the role just like you didn't know anything about narcissism or narcissists. You just jump right in and you play the role, and you have the time of your life for a while during the idolization phase. So I want to talk about what this is. What causes you to do this? What causes you to allow someone to take you over? And so what I've discovered is that there is a process, and the Fawn response is, you know, Pete Walker's book, CPTSD, where he talks about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. The fawn response is a response to traumatic abuse in childhood. And it's where the child becomes what the parent needs them to become in order not to be unalived and in order to survive. So a child, in order to survive, has to fawn, which means to dote, which means to give, which means to deny their own needs, to not have any needs, to just be quiet, walk on eggshells, and please the parent figure. Okay? That is the fawn response. It's a survival tool. It's based in the limbic system, so it's very, very deep within your instinctual being to fawn in order to survive. It's a survival tool. However, in adulthood, it can become dangerous because if you are triggered to fawn over someone who is potentially harmful to you or definitely harmful to you, then it can cause problems for you. It can cause you to be abused, and it can cause you to be depressed and have all sorts of problems. So it's not a healthy reaction. It's not a healthy process when you're an adult. When you were young, you needed it to survive, but now that you're an adult, you no longer need it. But how the heck do you untangle from it? Because it is a very automatic system. It's an automatic system that you step into without knowing. It's a process of having blind trust for somebody who is, psychopathic, or someone who does not have your best interests at heart. It's blind trust with a bad guy or a bad girl. It's not even noticing that, hey, this is not real. This person is faking it. This person is love bombing. This person is future faking. This person is not what they're professing that they are. And so, it reminds me of one time when I was sucked into one of those MLMs where they made all these promises. They made all these, claims. And I didn't really want to do it at first, but I got, sucked into it. I was just sucked in and whirled away. And before you know it, I wanted all my friends to get into the multi-level marketing. And I regret that time, but I was literally taken away. My system did not have the boundaries, standards, limits in place to be able to stop the brainwash. I was unable to withstand the pressure of the love bombing and the things that they offered to get me involved. And as soon as I realized that it really was it was a crock, it was too late, and I had wasted a lot of time, effort, energy chasing after a dream that never manifested. And so all that glitters is not gold. So whenever a narcissist comes along, it kind of reminds me of, something you get in the mail that says, you could be a winner. You could be a winner. You could win. Or you get a spam, you could win. We're giving away $1,000. Or a catfish, if you have, somebody from another country hitting you up with beautiful photos of themselves saying that they're a doctor and they have a mansion and they want to marry you, okay? An online catfish. That's kind of the way that a narcissist approaches you, because they do not have your best interest at heart. They only want to take from you because they don't have it in themselves, and they need you to buy into the illusion that they are superior and you are inferior, that they are greater than and you are less than. And if you're already queued up to idolize people, to be, gullible, to be naive, then you're going to fall prey to these individuals. I think it's important that I talk about this freely because it is deeply personal. It's also embarrassing to admit that I would have a fawn response in certain circumstances. It's but it's vital, because as we share this information, it gets out and it really shuts down the abuse. And the more information that gets out, the less abuse there will be in the world, and the less this narcissism, these narcissists, these abusive people who are exploitative and emotionally very damaging to people will become fewer and fewer as society begins to reject that behavior, as we all wisen up to what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, I just have a list here, and I actually have like 24 pages that I've written in the past 2 days. So at least 24 pages of information that I've journaled and figured out through, my own soul searching, as well as watching YouTube and all sorts of things. So I'm just going to kind of lay this out. I don't really have it professionally done here, but I'm going to talk about it and get through as much as I can. And then I'll probably be having some more content for you guys. So I hope you enjoy it. And fawn response. The fawn response is an automatic response where you are unaware of what's happening. And this person, this narcissist that comes into your life, gives you an incredible burst of energy through their fake promises, through their false promises. Their false promises empower you and help you to dig into places within yourself that help you to propel yourself to a higher level personally. So that's what this love bombing does if it's the right narcissist and the right person comes along and you are prone to fall for this and you are not aware of your worth and you are not tapped into your intuition in all areas. So for myself, I am very tapped into my intuition, very tapped in, and I'm very aware. And I've had to go through a lot of counseling and therapy to really be myself in real time, to stay in tune with my own feelings, thoughts, and experiences, preferences, wants. But I noticed in looking back at my situations, I noticed that there's a drop off. There's a place like I can stay with myself, but then once this fawn response, once this automatic nervous system, limbic system, fight or flight goes into effect, I lose myself, or used to, not anymore because I've got it now, lost myself and just went into a completely different world where I was not in tune with my needs. I was not in tune with my wants, preferences. I didn't have any boundaries. It was like automatically I went back to being a child in an abusive household where I had to give, and didn't have a voice and didn't have boundaries. So it's like a dissociation. And so I can see how I'll be just going around, going straight along, doing great, setting boundaries, building healthy relationships, and then boom, I'll get, if I, it takes a while, but if I meet someone who really embodies that, whatever it is that triggers, then it will just pop me off and I'll go off into dissociation. The dissociated fawn response. And I've learned through my work on myself that it is a dissociative state because I'm normally very in tune with my boundaries. I'm in tune with my needs, in tune with my wants. But in this environment, in this romantic, love bombing, abusive scenario, I suddenly play the role of less than and lose touch with my essence, lose touch with my intuition. I don't even know how I feel. Why? The reason why is that I become so elated. I have a sense of elation, okay? So there's something about that love bombing from the right narcissist that creates an an euphoric experience for me. And so that euphoria, it overrides any other mechanism, any of my skills. It overrides my connection to myself. So I really started researching that within myself and writing and writing and writing and journaling. And I realized that, that euphoria is inside of me, and it's a part of me that has been suppressed, and it only has permission to come out for some reason during this fawn response. And I'm working on integrating that aspect and really finding euphoria in everyday life. Because if you don't find your bliss, and if you're not operating on all of your engines, all cylinders of your, what do they call it? Like an 8-cylinder engine. If you're not on all engines, if all engines are not on, if you're not going in turbo mode in your own life, then you're going to have a weakness, and you're going to be prey for people that want to take those things that are good in you that you can't see, because you can't see your own worth. But they can, and they want you to give it to them and then pretend like you are less than and worthless, and they devalue you. So the fawn response occurs. Think about it for yourself. This may be happening to you. I don't know. I assume if it's happening to me, it's likely happening to others. We have experiences that are common to man. So it's interpersonal trauma to be prone to go into a fawn response where you're out of touch with yourself. That is traumatic. That's not good. Nothing good can end from that. If you are out of touch with yourself, you can never be in a happy, fulfilled relationship, especially with a narcissist who never takes accountability and can never compromise. So if you're not in touch with yourself, you can't, and the other person, the narcissist, can't compromise, and all they do is take, and all you do is give. Eventually you're going to run out of fuel. You're going to run out, and you're going to be, flat on the ground, steamrolled over. So it doesn't work. It's traumatic. And you're unaware. So I call it a dissociation, because the fawn response, when you're sucked in to love bombing, you're not aware. You're not in awareness. You're delusional. You're delusional that all your needs you've ever wanted are going to be met. All the love songs fit. All the quotes on, Facebook sound correct. The algorithm sends you love quotes, love memes. Everything is just around this bubble that you're happily ever after and everything is great. And you're unaware that you have left your needs at the door, that you've left your preferences at the door, and that you're overgiving, overserving, overcompensating, idolizing someone else at the expense of yourself. So it's your limbic system. That is something I was studying about the fawn, fight, flight, or fawn, freeze. It's dissociation. So it becomes a lost part of you, because when you were little, if you had to adapt to an abusive environment, then you had to, the child will split. The personality will split, and it will cause a lot of problems in your adulthood, because the child cannot handle an abusive environment. All they can do is just split off the parts that have needs, wants, and feelings, and forget about those. When you're in the presence of someone who is abusive, you have to act happy when you're sad. Children are to be seen and not heard. There's all these sayings around denying your feelings. So when you deny those feelings and you're punished for having those feelings, that aspect of yourself splits off, and it becomes just a loose part. So and then a part is created, like a loose part that's just like, it comes in and it's like, hey, I don't have any feelings. I don't have any needs. What do you need? What do you want? I'll do it all. What can I do for you? You're the greatest. I'm the worst. Yes, you're right. Okay. And that's the little girl. That's the little part that was created during abuse. Okay. So I started thinking about it, in this trauma response is fear-based. It's fear-based because anything that was created in a traumatic environment is, the underlying thing is fear. Fear of death, fear of abandonment, fear of not being loved, fear of rejection, and it could be terror, just fear of annihilation, fear. So fawn response, even though it looks nice and sweet, that is a cover for fear, terror, trepidation, humiliation, whatever. Just like the narcissist covers their true intentions with love bombing and idealization, you are also covering and operating in a false self, because the fawn response, the Miss Goody Two-Shoes, the people pleaser, the approval addict, is actually operating as a mask for fear. Okay? So think that one through. That could be a whole entire video here. Okay, so when you're in the fawn response, when you're in this delusion, you have amnesia walls, which is very similar to just you don't remember. You don't remember that it's 2024. You don't remember that you're great and you deserve love. You deserve to be honored. You deserve to be respected. You just kind of forget all of that. And you just think nothing is more important than this euphoric feeling of meeting the needs of this other person, and this other person being wonderful in my life, and actually finding and being loved for once in my life, like I've always wanted. Okay, so you forget that you're lovable, you're fabulous. You forget that you know how to be in touch with your feelings because you've been working on yourself for years. You forget that you're a homeowner and you have a car and you have resources, and that you don't need the love of any person to fulfill you, that you're already worthy in and of yourself, and you can't get love like that you're trying to get through the fawn response. You can't get love like that externally. That's love that only comes from within. It's self-love that must come internally. But what you're doing with that fawn response is you are trying to get love externally. That really, it's kind of, you're trying to get love for yourself. You're trying to prove to yourself that you're worthy by becoming good enough for this person to stick around. And this person is abusive. This person doesn't love you. This person is self-centered, selfish, insecure. They're trying to take your supply from you. They don't love you, but they do match the behaviors of your original abusers. And if they do, then it's going to put you in this trance state, this fawn response, because you're trying to fulfill that repetition compulsion, which I talk about, what Freud talks about. The repetition compulsion of trying to fix what was wrong in your original development. Something that's interesting, I was putting a real estate sign up, and one of my fingernails got caught in the sign, and it just popped my fingernail off. And now it's growing back. I mean, it was bloody and it was gross. And I was like, my goodness, how is that going to come back? And, but lo and behold, I mean, it hasn't come back yet, but it's trying to. I'm just watching as my finger heals, as it just comes together just like it was supposed to be. And I'm watching as it's building a little place for the new fingernail to come out. And I read on the internet, it takes about 6 months. But it's amazing to me, the human body and how it heals. And it's also amazing how internally, emotionally, psychologically, we can heal. But we have to remove the agitation. We have to remove that which is wounding. And that which is wounding is not external, it's internal. through internal introjects, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay, and through, just false beliefs and through negative core beliefs and all sorts of things. So if you get rid of those things or clean those things or integrate those negative aspects, then you too can heal, and then you just trust, and then the road will rise up to meet you. So then we're on to the fawn response. It comes in when there is an abusive dictator type person, which is what, a tyrant, which is what a narcissist is. They're a tyrant. They have to have their way or the highway. And the fawn response that you go into, the trance, in the love bombings phase, it just sits back and, becomes a slave, becomes like a slave. Okay, it's also, what else did I say? Giving, overcompensation. We've heard it all before, trauma bonding. It's what I'm talking about right now is the trauma bond. I'm just calling it the fawn response. It could also be called the fantasy bond, which is also the equivalent of codependency. So the charm and the way that the narcissist comes with flattery and promises to fulfill those weaknesses that you think you have within yourself makes you blind to abuse, blind to potential pitfalls, blind to disrespect and, digs and evaluation, blind to potential manipulation, and keeps you silent, really shuts down your voice. Because when you're a child, it was dangerous to speak, because if you spoke, you could potentially lose the love of your caregiver, which is, crucial to survival. Some of you may not be aware that you had this in your childhood, but I would venture to say that most people who are prone to narcissist abuse, but I don't know this for sure, but I just feel, I guess because I am a trauma survivor, I feel like everybody that had this is prone to this must have it already in their system, because what's on the outside is what's on the inside. You're living the life that's already within. So if you're experiencing this, I think that you already have some of these issues that you may want to clean up. You're gullible, easily conned, naive, pushover, doormat, people pleaser. That's the fawn response. That's codependency. That's the trauma bond. You're delusional. You jump into fantasy. You jump into this shared fantasy with the narcissist. The fantasy of the narcissist is that they are the best in the world. There's nobody better. And they have a grandiose experience of themselves. And so they invite you through the love bombing phase to come in and share this fantasy that they are the greatest in the world and you suck. That's what they need you to feel. And eventually they take it all out of you and then spit you out like they didn't just use you like toilet paper. Okay. Your feelings of the fawn response are based upon the action of the love object. So you're very connected. You're very dependent upon this narcissist in your life. The fawn response is very hypervigilant, anxious attachment, hypervigilant. I better not make this person mad. I better make him happy. I better make her, I better play the role right. I better ask her for advice. I better pretend like I don't know what she just said is a lie. I better act like she's the greatest thing. I better act like she's the most holy thing in the world. Or, I'm not going to have a friend and I'm going to be all alone. So this can be with friends. It could be with coworkers. It could be with, family. It could be with love relationships, love bombing. You can be love bombed and then spit out, and love bomb spit out. You guys can go listen to some of my other work on love bombing on my channel, Self-Love You. So it's very euphoric, the fawn response. If we didn't get some kind of payoff, we wouldn't go into it. So for some reason, I'm still really digging into it, and I'm almost there, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet. But there's a euphoria that comes with that feeling of, finally, my prince has come. Finally, I'm getting the love I deserve. I've always known it was there, but it's never been there. So there's something shut up and locked up that comes out, and that the narcissist knows how to tap. They're going to help you. They're going to bring you to the next level. Okay. Insecure attachment, I just brought that up. It's self-abandonment. Anytime you go into a dissociative state, it may not be purposeful, but it is self-abandonment. And once you know it, and then you can start working backwards to figure out why, what, where, how, and what can I do in the future to fortify myself, to stay connected to myself, regardless of the intense focus of a love bomber. Okay, so the fawn response involves a detachment from needs. It could be an intense loneliness. It could be that you're more prone or susceptible to the fawn response and the love bombing of the narcissist because of your past abuse has left you with negative core beliefs that make you feel insignificant and worthless and unworthy of love. And this may carry you into this love bombing phase. That's why it's so important that we realize that it is these behaviors, the abuse itself, that creates negative core beliefs. It's not who we really are. I'll do another audio on that. I think that's really important. You forget your needs, wants, and preferences during the fawn response, and you just give everything away because the narcissist would have it no other way. If you want to keep a narcissist around, then you can't have needs, wants, and preferences at all. The only needs you're going to get met with a narcissist are those that are met by accident because they're meeting their needs and you happen to be there. Like if they're cooking, you might get some food that they cooked, but they're going to eat it too. So it's not really for you. It's not really anything that shows that they value you or that you're worthy. Okay. The fawn response is an enmeshment. It's an enmeshment. It's actually creating a construct. The other person becomes a part of your internal psyche. Just like the narcissist makes the other person narcissistic supply, the codependent in the fawn response makes the narcissist their supply in a sense. It's just that the codependent, the abused, the target, the victim gets the shorter end of the stick while it's happening. But ultimately, it's the narcissist that loses because this codependent's going to wake up from this fawn response, come back to earth and go, wait a minute, what's going on? No, I have boundaries. I have needs. I have wants. Everybody's going to wake up. Hopefully you're going to wake up, especially with all this information out here. The fawn response is a product of masochism. It's a masochistic response. And I think it is because as a child, when you are raised in a series of painful, traumatic events, you begin to equate this pain, this drama, this chaos, this victimhood, this learned helplessness. You begin to equate it with pain, love, pain. So there's a piece of masochism in this fawn response, this susceptibility to love bombing. Egoism. I love that word. I want to do a whole talk on it, but just pinpoint that egoism, where you don't really have a sense of self. I think egoism could be equated with fawn response, egoism, trauma bond, codependent, anxious attachment. I think they all mean just about the same thing. It's programming. This is learned behavior. This is not something that is inherent. It is learned, completely learned, but definitely drilled into your head time and time again through abusive experiences and then being open to further abusive experiences. If you do not know who you are, if you do not know your worth and value, you're going to be wide open and geared up and groomed and ready for someone to take advantage of your kindness, for someone to use you, abuse you, and not be not give back in return. Like, you just used me and now you're not going to give me, you're not going to say thank you. Okay, those of you who are well-versed on this topic know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the fawn response is automatically going into less than role, the role of less than, the role of the puppet, the role of the one who pretends like they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they want. Because if they were to dare have wants and needs, then the narcissist would deem them not worthy of grade A supply, and they would not be able to keep the abuser in their presence. And for some reason, in their masochism, they are trying to keep this abusive person around until they wake up. Okay? Puppet, doormat, people pleaser. It's all part of the fawn response. It's based in fear. It's not a real response. I just have so much to say about that. I can't wait. It's detached from your authenticity. So the fawn response is the opposite of authenticity. It's opposite of power. Your power lies beneath this fawn response. Your power lies beneath people pleasing. You people please because of fear, because you never were allowed to express and embody your own power. And it was never told to you that you can do that. And then it was never taught and you didn't build the skills. Okay, detached from feelings, needing from your need for acceptance and the euphoria of feeling finally someone sees me for who I am, even though they're not seeing anything. You're the one who's doing all the seeing and recognizing and appreciating of the narcissist. Your need for acceptance or fake acceptance or perceived acceptance trumps your need for reciprocity, for a voice, for respect. That's a problem. You're not going to get anywhere with this fawn response. Never. You're going to get nowhere. So it becomes important to unfold this, to untangle all these little strings. Okay, fear of abandonment. It's from childhood abuse and neglect. It's a fantasy bond. Dr. Firestone talks about the fantasy bond, which is codependency. Codependency is the fantasy of enmeshment, fulfillment externally, external need validation. The fawn response is a worthless feeling. It's a feeling of being subhuman, where you don't have the rights of a normal human. You're second, you're a slave, you're less than. The other person is above the real one, the big dog, and you are the lowly, submissive echo. Okay, then we go on. It's worship. This fawn response is a worship. I believe it taps into the same aspect of ourselves that would worship, would get involved in a cult, blind faith, blind trust. That's a really big one for abusive relationships. Women who are in abusive relationships have blind trust, just automatic trust in an abuser. The needs of the other become your needs. So you get fulfillment out of meeting the needs of the other. And that gives you just this wonderful feeling of adrenaline and euphoria, and you feel fabulous meeting someone else's needs instead of noticing your own needs. And you're getting, so basically your wires are crossed. So you have to unplug that wire and devote yourself to yourself and focus on self-care. That's huge, because that's a big deal. When the needs of another who is abusive becomes your needs, where you get a big thrill out of denying your own needs and meeting their needs. That's masochism 101, because that will lead you to emptiness. And we don't deserve that. We deserve the best. We deserve to know our worth and not to hand it over without payment. So your energy is valuable. And it doesn't just go anywhere without some reciprocity. You've got to be careful who takes your energy. Self-deprecating. So fawn response is very lowly. I'm nothing. It feels like home. The fawn response feels like home because it is learned grooming behavior. It's learned behavior. You were groomed to feel this way. The fawn response can occur because you are already in isolation due to the lies that you were taught about yourself already. And so you're in a weakened position. You're in a place of need because you're not meeting your own needs, because you're not operating on all. I say 4 cylinders, but who wants a 4-cylinder? I want an 8-cylinder. I want a V8 turbo. I don't want a 4-cylinder. But you have to operate on all aspects of your life in full capacity and not hold back and not be dragged down by the lies of that you're worthless, or that you can't, or that it's not worth it, or life is hopeless. That's all a bunch of bullcrap. You have to be completely on it. And it's hard to have space to be on it whenever you've been abused. But every time you heal a little, you get more space. So if you're a vulnerable, isolated person who has been abused in the past and doesn't know your worth, then you are a perfect grade A supply for the narcissist, and you will be prey for certain narcissists. Even if you know all the red flags, you'll be prey to dissociate into this fawn response and lose yourself, if only for a moment. And you've got to be careful. And so you can take back your power, and you can go no contact, and then you can focus on yourself and just treat yourself like the queen, the king that you are, because you deserve everything wonderful, and you deserve to be present in all aspects of your relationship, including the beginning. You have to have boundaries from start to finish, which means you have to be totally plugged into your intuition at all times. And if you ever accidentally get kicked off, then you don't beat yourself up. You just pick yourself up and start again. So that's what I have to say today. I hope you liked this talk. Please come back. You're going to have to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I don't think YouTube serves me up anymore. But I haven't been doing a lot of work, so maybe that's why. But anyway, so I hope you guys like this. Until next time, I am Jenna Ryan. Self-love you. I'll talk to you soon.